right?
thing is, you're trying to divert from the question. If you want marriage to increase, you have to give a good answer to the question.
Because it's the only way that you can have. It's the only way you can have
Okay.
children without single motherhood.
What do children get out of marriage?
Well, if mommy and daddy aren't married, right, then the children have very, very bad outcomes. Single mother homes have terrible outcomes, and single father homes aren't tenable, generally speaking, because they're the working parent, right? So the only way for men to have families is through marriage.
So what do women get out of marriage?
They generally get resources. They generally get resources, and they get access to status, social status, security, things like this.
And what do men get out of marriage?
They get children out of marriage.
Okay. And what do they get out of marriage that they couldn't get from just a live-in girlfriend?
Mothers. So here's, an intact family, in other words.
Okay,
so
they can't,
here's the thing.
If you have if the woman lives with him,
yeah,
what's the difference?
the thing is when we look at
and the other
hang on. Well, let me respond to it.
Okay, go ahead.
If we look at the social data for what you're talking about, this happens all the time. That's called a single mom, right? You live with the chick, you impregnate the chick, you're not married to the chick. Those end up in the most.
Crowder's in the same position. So are a lot of
he doesn't have children with some. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have children with some live-in girlfriend, right?
Right, but he's not with the mother of his kids now. He had a really public divorce.
Yeah, but this is a different.
So I know, but my point is, you can say data all you want, but when people are witnessing conservative people that pushed a lot of this stuff getting divorced, men are going to naturally do a cost-benefit analysis and realize there's no difference.
So here's the cost benefit. Here's a cost benefit analysis, Em.
And so, my other question too would be, who do the kids belong to? Do they belong to him or do they belong to her?
Yeah, so I believe in patrilineal society. I think that children belong to their fathers,
right?
And always have thought so. And that would be a form of reform inside of the court. And by the way, traditionally this was always the way it happened.
But in society today, where women get custody 90% of the time, who do the kids belong to?
That's not the case anymore. They don't get it 90% of the time now.
Do they belong to her? Do they belong to her or do they belong to him?
Well, they belong to the court system. Okay. They're the ones who make the allocation.
And where are the majority of the time who gets custody?
Yeah, that's generally speaking women. I agree.
Okay, so what do men get out of marriage? If
the
majority of the time the kids belong to her and not him.
Okay.